Fresh off his meeting with Kim Jong-un, President Trump boldly proclaimed that thanks to his leadership, the nuclear threat from North Korea has ended. Is that claim premature? Who gained more from the summit in Singapore? And how will this impact politics here at home? Lots to cover on this episode. We begin with David Jolly, former Republican representative from Tampa, Florida. He joins me from Tampa. All right, David, what's your characterization of the summit?
Donald Trump is wrong to suggest there's no longer a nuclear threat. There was very little substance that came out of this. I think we can all applaud diplomatic talks as being better than conflict. But the reality is North Korea won this initial summit. And one of the leading South Korea papers actually said that just this week. Kim Jong-un got everything he wanted. He got recognition from a U.S. president. He got to stand beside a U.S. president, the first time we have ever seen that. Donald Trump really didn't receive anything other than assurances that they might keep talking and a reaffirmation of a North Korean agreement that was already in place with South Korea. So Donald Trump will continue to sell this as though he has changed American foreign policy, and in some ways he has. Right? He has sat with a dictator who is adverse to American interests. But denuclearization was not achieved in this summit, and I think there's reasons to doubt that it will ever be achieved.
Don't you think there's reasons for hope?
Of course. And this really is important, Larry, and I'm glad you asked that. Diplomatic talks are always better than conflict. I think what a lot of Americans are wrestling with is the trust gap with this president, right? The notion that he might sit and talk with Kim, does that really reflect a foreign policy, or does that reflect Donald Trump trying to seek a certain place in history that perhaps others haven't had? It's not that the latter is wrong, but it reflects a lack of substance. There was no preparation going into this. If you were to ask Donald Trump today, since he has met with Kim, would he meet with Rouhani? Would he meet with the Cuban regime? Would he meet with Assad? This is not a president prepared to talk about the complexities of foreign policy when it comes to the actual threats we face on the world stage.
Barack Obama proposed the same thing. He said he would meet with North Korea without preconditions, and most Republicans slammed him. Were you one of those Republicans who slammed Obama at the time?
You know, I know that I questioned the president's policies when it came to Iran for very much the same reasons. I don't recall a similar instance with North Korea, but look, when Barack Obama approached working with Iran, the question wasn't whether or not we trusted the American president. The question was whether or not we trusted the foreign adversary. I, for one, did not. I did not trust Rouhani. I did not trust Iran. In this case, I don't trust North Korea, and I don't trust Kim Jong-un. The president has decided to place his trust in a dictator who we know is one of the greatest human rights violators of our time. Perhaps the president is correct in placing his trust in him. We should all hope for peace. But there are reasons domestically within the American political system to question the president's judgment in this case. You know, a lot of people dislike Donald Trump in the United States. And whether that's fair or not, that should not inform our assessment of his policy decisions. But distrust is a fair question. Whether or not people trust this president when it comes to competence and his ability to reach deals is an open question for a lot of Americans. A lot of people support the president, but a lot of people question him.
What effect will this have on the 2018 elections?
Nothing at all. I think
No?
if it does anything, I think it emboldens people who believe Donald Trump truly is right on everything. The Republicans who consider him one of the greatest Republican presidents in history, those numbers reflect that. But I think for those who oppose the president, it is over issues that in many ways are different than what we're seeing on the world stage. It's matters of trust. It's matters of whether or not this is a president who treats the institutions of government in the same way that past presidents have. I think all Americans can wish for peace. We can wish for a reduction in conflict, but I don't think the president's going to get a bump out of what comes out of the North Korea summit.
Okay, it was once said in a big election in the United States, it's the economy, stupid. If that's the answer, with the U.S. unemployment rate down to 3.8%, the lowest since 2000, if Trump gets credit for that, doesn't it look like he's the favorite to be reelected?
You know, There are a lot of people who will vote on whether they think we're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. And for those people, the economy, as you said, as Bill Clinton's campaign rightly noted, is the preeminent decider for a lot of people. I think the president, his election, if you will, is due a lot of credit for this macroeconomic confidence. Recognize we're coming off an Obama administration that approached regulation in a way that really crimped corporate profits, really crimped employment. A lot of critics of Donald Trump would suggest he hasn't done much different, but I will tell you that the corporate confidence is a direct reflection of the fact that this president has come in and said we're going to reduce regulations, we're going to increase profitability, and as a result, we're going to reduce unemployment and create greater jobs. That is a macroeconomic trend that, yes, this president deserves credit for. One of the issues that the president will have to wrestle with, whether it happens or not and whether he can affect it or not, is there's a difference between economic growth and wage growth. If American people are paying more for their health insurance, if they're paying more for gas prices, if they're not actually seeing their take-home wages go up, we've just seen the Fed increase interest rates, which will increase payments on credit cards and on mortgages. Does that affect a voter's mindset? At the end of the day, this president is presiding over a growing economy, and that is a tailwind for him that should speak very favorably politically for his reelection effort.
According to an article in The Atlantic, a senior White House official summed up the Trump foreign policy doctrine as, "We're America, bitch." What's your reaction to that?
He represents a certain hollow nationalism that has infected the Republican Party in the past 10 years, and it's unfortunate. We all take pride in our home countries. We certainly do as Americans. Donald Trump has seized on that, from little issues like whether or not football players stand for the national anthem, to whether or not we're getting a fair deal on trade, to whether or not he's going to increase the defense budget. In some cases, those are real policy differences from past presidents. But what he is really selling is this isolationist approach to foreign policy. It's a dangerous game to play, Larry. It certainly rings true with a lot of people, particularly in middle America, who believe in the strength of the country, and we don't want to leave from behind. They question and are skeptical of these international alliances. But the president also has to be very careful what he has done to those international alliances. Freedom has been withstood not just because of the United States, but because of our allies as well. The president has to be very careful with how he has offended some of those allies in his first 16 to 18 months.
David Jolly, as always, thanks for your time.
Good to be with you, Larry. Thank you.